Welcome back. In response to the death of a Bronx teen, Brandon Hendricks, the organization Oyate Group launched a scholarship in his honor. The Brandon Hendricks Scholarship offers financial support to multiple high school seniors from the Bronx that have recently been admitted to college. Founder and president of Oyate Group, Tomas Ramos, joins me now to discuss this effort. Tomas, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here today.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the Oyate Group and the sub-organization, or you could correct me on that, Bronx Rising Initiative?
Yeah, so the Oyate Group I founded in 2020, and it's an anti-poverty nonprofit organization, grassroots, community-based, and we focus on youth services. When the pandemic, happened and the Bronx became the epicenter at one moment in time, that's when I launched the Bronx Rising Initiative to combat that and to bring in resources into the Bronx, to Bronx hospitals, to small businesses that were affected. And then ultimately what got us international and national attention, our vaccine program. So the Bronx Rising Initiative was specifically a program under the Oyate Group to help our community, at a time where we were struggling, very hard.
Now, for those who are unaware, can you just talk about Brandon Hendricks, his life and the impact his passing had on community members of the Bronx?
Yeah, so I actually personally knew Brandon Hendricks. At the time, I was a program director for a community center in the Soundview area of the Bronx. And he would come in 6 a.m. in the morning to practice, He was a lovely kid. He did everything right. He maintained a 3.0 GPA average, and he was awarded a full scholarship to St. John's University, and his life was ended short because of senseless gun violence. And that's when I decided to launch a Brandon Hendricks Scholarship, in his honor.
Now, can you expand a little bit more about the scholarship? Who is it for, and what was the purpose of this?
Yeah, at that time, I had one of my students come into my office, and he was thinking about going to college, and then he wasn't sure. And he was a friend of Brandon's, and he just said, it's just so hard to get, make it out of the Bronx. We can try to do everything right. We can get good grades, we can get scholarships, but you had Brandon Hendricks that was just at the wrong place at the wrong time, and his life was ended early. So he was discouraged, and I had to give him a little pep talk. And that's what really made me launch a scholarship, so we could inspire, the young people and give them extra, cash in their pockets so they can further their education and continue, uplifting themselves. So that's why I really started it. As we know, the Bronx, it's low, a lot of low income, people of color, families that can't really afford to put, their children into, higher education. So this is a scholarship that we're going to continue doing. And this time around, we restructured it. Before we did 10, we would award 10 scholarships to 10 different individuals for $5,000 each one. Now we're doing 2 high school scholars, but we're giving $20,000 to each one throughout the 4 years. And we believe that this will be more impactful. And when we look at, long-term sustainability and how we can really impact, these winners' lives, so they can come back and reinvest in the same scholarship, that helped them get through college themselves.
Now, applications are open. Can you just let people know how they can actually apply?
Yes, you can go to our website, oyategroup.org. Oyate spelled Oyate group.org. You can go to our Instagram at Oyate Group, and all the information is there. It's very straightforward, and I encourage everyone to apply. This is $20,000. You do have to maintain a 3.0 GPA each year, and then be in one extracurricular activity. And then after the first year, they're going to become mentors to the next cohort of Brandon Hendrick, winners.
Now, I think that's amazing because you mentioned that, a student was like, it's so hard to leave the Bronx. And I feel like this scholarship, from what it sounds like, helps them, but it doesn't make them leave. Like, it makes them come back. Can you just talk about the importance of making sure the kids, don't, become successful and disappear?
Yeah, and that's the piece of the mentorship piece, that they have to come back and become mentors to the next cohort, and they have to come back every year, every summer, and it's not just the scholarship in itself. The other thing that we are providing as an organization is opportunities for internships, professional internships, and then potential job opportunities. We're going to be partnering with organizations like Sponsors for Educational Opportunities, which places Black and brown students into Wall Street. So we're going to be partnering with other institutions, hospitals, and really create a pipeline. So it's just not the finance part of it, but it's also just holistic and wrap around for that student, and make sure that they're on the right track to become successful professionals.
Now, what was the response like from Hendricks' family and the community, when the scholarship was launched?
I'm personally in touch with Eve Hendricks, his mother, his uncle. They're on the committee, so they actually read through the applications. They are just, so happy that we're continuing his legacy. And this scholarship it's a prestigious scholarship for an individual that was just a star in all aspects. And for us to be able to continue his legacy this way, they're extremely happy.
Now, I know that, like earlier you mentioned, he did everything right. And I think like when you listen to that, it just sounds, tragic, and it's terrible. But that's just unfortunately the reality for a lot of kids. I want to know, working with children, what are their thoughts on this? Because we usually talk in spaces of only adults, but we don't really hear, how children feel like when they go to school. So can you just tell me, like, from your experience, what you've learned from them about that?
Yeah, they just they want a safe space. They want to feel that heard, like they have a voice. So in our office space, we created a space for young people. We have a mentorship program where they come and they express themselves, tell us how they feel, tell us what they want, and how we can support them in those different things. And even when we have young people that get discouraged because they didn't get this job or whatnot, we're still there for them, and make sure that they're given the resources and opportunity to uplift themselves.
Now, I want to talk about gun violence because that's honestly, it's an issue facing the Bronx, but New York City as a whole. How is this, impacting our borough?
Yeah, gun violence is something that everybody knows that it lives in the Bronx. It's something that has been going on for, who knows how long. But what we have done as an organization, we are actually the only nonprofit ever in New York State history to sponsor gun buybacks events. So we have done two with the District Attorney Darcel Clark. We have done one with District Attorney Alvin Bragg. We've done one with District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, where we sponsored 200 guns in one day off the streets, the most ever in history. So to date, we've helped sponsor and remove 400 guns off the streets of New York City. So that's one of the programs that we do, and we'll continue to do so, in any way we can. The other thing we do is, we look at prevented programming. So we launched a undocumented internship program. Undocumented youth, if people do not know, they cannot apply for summer youth employment. So they're left without any opportunity for jobs. So what we've done was we partnered with Fordham University and Lehman College, where we're going to be placing 30 undocumented students at Fordham and 30 undocumented students here at Lehman College, and provide them with a $500 Visa gift card on a weekly basis. So now we have young people that are undocumented working and off the streets, and also in a setting where they're being inspired and sparked their interest to potentially go into higher education as well.
Now, I think it's amazing that your organization is doing work in all these, avenues, because I think sometimes, even with the best intentions, sometimes organizations may look at it from one standpoint, but they're not thinking maybe about the preventative measures. And I know it's a lot to handle. Can you just talk about, why it was important for you to kind of look at all these different avenues to help, build a better Bronx?
I focus on system structures and pipeline. What happens is there's a lot of good schools, good elementary schools, middle schools. But once those students leave the middle school and they go to a high school that doesn't have the same systems or structures in place, and everything they learn throughout middle school just kind of goes out the window. So what we look to do is create a system where they're constantly in our pipeline, with the undocumented internship. Now they roll into our mentoring program. And then from the mentoring program, we help them get into college, potentially through the scholarship, the Brandon Hendricks Scholarship as well. So it's like keeping them into our system, and we're in constant contact with them and ensuring that they have everything they need to continue to progress. Because what happens is a lot of programs, either they get aged out or they just move on and there's no follow-up or follow-through. So that's why every program that we have launched, it's intentional. It's about long-term sustainability and holistic, and making sure that we're wrapping around and helping entire families.
I'm so glad that you mentioned like aging out of certain programs. Is your program primarily focusing on high school students?
No, so there's age limits for the Brandon Hendricks Scholarship is for high school seniors entering their freshman year in college. The undocumented internship program, 15-year-olds up to like 19-year-olds. But we have other programs that we are launching that is for youth 16 all the way up to 24. Okay. We're looking to do workforce development and bringing in other alternative to higher education, because not every young person wants to go into college. So that's another gap that we're trying to tackle. And we're going to be launching an entrepreneurship program in the next month or so, where it's a Shark Tank style. And we'll be giving $50,000 grant to the first prize winner. So those are the kinds of programs that we are currently doing at our organization, and we have a lot more things in the pipeline.
That sounds so much fun. Like the shark, I watch that show sometimes, and I'm like, oh, if I had an idea. So I think it's amazing that you're kind of like encouraging children from the Bronx not just to be workers for like other people, but to kind of like be in charge of like their own business or kind of have ideas like that. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I'm happy about this one in particular, because there's so many people, young people, that have amazing ideas, but as we know, they don't have access to funders, access to bank loans to really get their idea off the ground. So what we're doing is not only providing them with a grant to get it off the ground, but we're also providing them with our, infrastructure. We have lawyers, accountants, we have, PR, media, digital media, and they'll be operating out of our site, sort of like an incubator. We're going to, help them launch their business off the ground and make sure that, they're as successful as possible.
Now, how can, prioritizing education, in the Bronx, just help us create and build a safer, and a better Bronx just for everybody who lives here?
Yeah. No, education is a true equalizer, and there's all types of education. There's a traditional route, and then there's the other, non-traditional routes where I feel like there's a lot of gaps. And what we're doing is going the non-traditional route, and providing and just, sparking our young people's interest in different things, because not everybody wants to go to college or needs to go to college. Right. You can be an electrician and start your own company. So that's what we're doing with our entrepreneurship program, and that's what we need to continue investing in is in more trade programs for our young people, and just work together and making sure that we're all on the same page.
Well, Tomas, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you or someone you know wants to apply for this scholarship, please go to their website at www.oyategroup.org. And reminder, the deadline to apply is April 30th. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.